Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. It's been a frightful week for people in the U.S. state of Texas as Hurricane Harvey bore down on Houston, flooding hundreds of homes and displacing thousands of people. As many as 39 people have known to have died in the flooding, drawing world attention because this is the worst that Texas has seen in 50 years. Floods were also reported in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Pakistan, following monsoon rains killing more than 1,000 people. And while we watched these areas struggle with the aftermath of the disaster, as many as over 200,000 people were displaced by flooding in Makurdi, Nigeria's Benue state. Meteorologists have attributed some of the disasters we've seen this year to climate change. Well, earlier this year, the World Meteorologist Organization warned that extreme weather and climate conditions continued into 2017. They warned they had surpassed their understanding of the changing climate and stepped into truly uncharted territory. Sadly, the conditions cannot be reversed. Humans can only adapt and prepare for the worst. So whether it's happening in Houston or in Benue State, we all need to be concerned. Food production will be affected, and one cannot deny the implications on health. Now in Nigeria and the United States continue to share relations despite the activities going on in U.S. politics. The largest congressional delegation from the U.S. to West Africa was in Nigeria recently, led by Delaware Senator Christopher Cruz, a member of the Senate Committees on Foreign Relations and Small Business and Entrepreneurship. The Democratic senator is focused on rebuilding partnerships throughout Africa and ensuring that health programs, food aid, economic development, and security assistance effectively reach those who need it most. His work to improve access to electricity in sub-Saharan Africa, engaged businesses in expanding trade and investment opportunities, and ended preventable maternal and child deaths. He's also helped in protecting wildlife from trafficking and promoting peace, democracy, and human rights across Africa. While in Nigeria, the U.S. mission held a reception for him at the consulate in Lagos after he'd had a long day of meetings with members of Nigeria's business community. Senator Cruz and I later got to talk about Nigeria-U.S. relations under President Donald Trump.
The president proposes a budget, but Congress actually decides what's ultimately going to get spent. And we, in September, will be voting on whether or not we will embrace and support President Trump's proposed budget cuts in U.S. foreign assistance. The program specifically that you're talking about is PEPFAR, which goes back to President Bush, enjoys very broad support among Republicans and Democrats in the Senate. And it's my hope that we will end up sustaining our investment in PEPFAR. Life-saving antiretroviral drugs have sustained more than 800,000 Nigerians, and it's a program that in partnership with Nigeria's public health leaders, the United States is committed to. And so we'll have to see. The president proposed some significant cuts in foreign aid for our last fiscal year, which the Congress rejected. He's proposed deep fiscal cuts this year, which I am hopeful we will again reject in our partnership with Nigeria.
Travel policy, which has slightly changed for some countries with the United States, will it change with Nigeria?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, the administration isn't planning to include Nigeria in some future travel ban. I think you're referring to the president's repeated efforts through executive order to slow or ban the immigration to the United States of refugees from a number of majority Muslim countries. That's something I've disagreed with. It's a policy that was put on hold by a number of federal judges and then was revised and has been challenged and is now being partially implemented pending a hearing before our Supreme Court. I'm not aware of any intention by the administration to block Nigerians from coming to the United States, but also I'm not sure I'd know exactly what the administration's planning.
But the administration is planning to block travel from some African countries to the United States because of their refusal to receive back refugees who have not been granted asylum, I think, in the U.S.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Would you like to comment on the changes made to the green card policy?
There are lots of proposed changes, and I'll just remind you that we have a three-part government. We're a federal republic, just like Nigeria, and the president can propose things, like a border wall with Mexico, but unless Congress actually appropriates the money for it and approves it ultimately, it won't move forward. So there are a number of proposed changes in immigration policy. My hope is that ultimately Congress will come together and find a bipartisan path to address our broken immigration system in the United States.
The flooding in Houston, you have a lot of Nigerians in Houston. How can those at home help?
Well, thank you for asking. The unfolding natural disaster in Houston and in the surrounding communities is going to affect those places for a very long time, for months. I'd encourage you to look to the American Red Cross. We actually met with one of the leaders of the Nigerian Red Cross and the International Red Cross when we visited Borno State. Anyone who is interested, I'd encourage them to reach out through organizations, through trusted international NGOs like the Red Cross if you'd like to help with our recovery. One of the great things about our countries is that there are so many Americans and Nigerians serving and working in each other's countries. And we do have a very robust Nigerian-American community in Houston. I've been praying for the recovery of Houston, and along with many others, I expect that once we get back into session, which will be next week, Congress will appropriate significant funds for the recovery of Houston.
Are you open to receiving aid from Mexico?
It's not my choice. I would receive assistance from any nation that's a partner, an ally, and a friend.